now paid to the slaves to the equal value of today's money. Without a political decision, you cannot go to the International Court of Justice. What Professor Beckles has presented is history and truth. And I thought, therefore, for the young people here, I need your support. I've reopened the debate for a vote on reparations. That debate was opened 2 weeks ago and will continue right after the financial debate. I want you to lobby the political decision whether we are entitled to all that Professor Beckles has shown here in this 10-point plan. With that political decision, it strengthens the Reparations Committee because, as Marcus Garvey recognized, trade unionism was not the road to power. It is political power. It is the educational structure that you need to put in place. And therefore, we are importing because what we have had is a penetration of the mind of ourselves. We have denied our Afrocentricity in all of our development, and therefore we are looking to Mama England for what we should be doing ourselves. I've covered most of that in my book, Many Rivers to Cross, and I'm happy to present the opening presentation that I made recently to Parliament while I wait to close the debate and demand the vote in this session of Parliament, which can then address these. And Professor Beckles, the important thing here is that we can demand from our government that all of these point plans be part of what is that 20 million pounds. But we must make that decision. We mustn't retire and turn to them to say, should we do it on this? We must make the decision, and certainly repatriation must be an important element of that. I won't take up any more of your time, but just as I was led to believe that Sir Francis Drake, since history is the issue we're speaking of, just as I was led to grow up thinking that Sir Francis Drake could take 5 ships and defeat the Spanish Armada, equally, I ask you to recognize that Garvey's words of what an entering the field of shipping and industry shows the doors that were closed to us and therefore the defeating of our mind. I am happy to hope that I have used the time as I have to as a politician anyway.
Good morning. I have 2 questions, one for Mr. Henry, one for you, Professor Beckles. One, Mr. Where is the collaboration among our regional leaders? I think it was the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, that was the only Prime Minister of the region that have really called out for reparation from England. And 2, this reparation money, how will it be divided among the masses of the people? Because we don't want our politicians are not.
Next question.
Next question. When will we submit a final proposal to Britain in terms of receiving reparations?
Okay, so how will the money be divided and when do we make the official demand to Britain? Thank you. Which school are you from? Thank you so much. All right. All right, the name of your school and your question, your name? From? Okay, your question?
What is your position on weed? In general, I'm asking.
Excuse me? What is your position on?
What is your position on marijuana use? I'm asking a general Caribbean leaders, what is your position?
On marijuana. All right?
They want to export it instead of destroying the commodity.
We can't hear your question, please.
Sorry.
All right. Prof has heard the question. All right. Okay. All right.
Destroy the commodity instead of exporting it and make some money.
Okay. Yes, young lady, where you from? St. Hughes, yes.
My question is, what is the particular role of women in reparation?
Thank you. Good. Next.
My name is Joel Taylor from Kingston College. Seeing that, so many major empires such as, the Roman, the Persian, have, developed slavery as a means of economic development. What makes Britain, what makes Caribbean slavery stand out, so heavily compared to?
All right. So we'll take a round of answers, and then we go to the final 4 questions for the students standing there. Just hold your ground. Prof?
At this moment, in respect of how would reparations funds be used, my own view at the moment, and it's not for me to make this decision because reparations is invariably a government-to-government decision. I am not a minister of government. But I would recommend the adoption of the Jewish model. There is something called the Jewish reparations model. There is a fund, and that fund is administered by very responsible and distinguished people from the society. The society produces a trust of persons in whom we have confidence, a group of people in whom we have confidence and trust, and those monies go into that trust, into that fund. The terms of reference for those funds are usually determined by international law. International law normally specifies that reparation funds ought to be used for specific purposes. And we believe that those funds ought to be used for the purposes which we have identified: education, health, technology, repatriation, and so on. Now, if you look at how the Jewish fund works, the Jews have received billions of dollars from the governments of Europe who have committed crimes against the Jewish people during the Holocaust and before. Those funds have been used to build universities. If you go to Israel today, if you go to the state of Israel, much of that money is used to build universities. It's used to build technology in agriculture. As you know, half of Israel is desert. It was converted into agricultural land by irrigation. Much of the money is used to create irrigation systems to build agriculture. As you know, Israel is also self-sufficient in energy because it has a highly developed solar technology system. They convert the energy of the sun into electricity. Much of that reparations money has been used to drive energy industries in Israel so that Israel can become an energy-sufficient country. So the funds are used for specific developmental projects around the upliftment of communities and so on. Now, that is how the funds will be used, because the funds are usually governed, as I say, by terms of reference that are specified by international law. So, yes, when that time comes, and I really do hope it comes in my lifetime, soon, that I could see how these funds are used to help to rebuild, how to rebuild Caribbean peoples. Now, in respect of women, women are at the center of this. You know, women are probably more at the center of this than men from this point of view. The slavery system was built upon the woman. Let me explain what I mean. Slavery was passed on through the black woman. The black woman was the carrier of slavery. It was the black woman's child that became a slave, an enslaved person. Once a black woman who was enslaved produced a child, that child was born into slavery. It doesn't matter who the father was. If the father was a free person, the father was white. If the father was a free person, so long as the mother was an enslaved person, that child was born into slavery. So if a slave man, if an enslaved African had a child with a white woman, and that was quite common, enslaved men had children with white women, but the child was born free because a white woman could not be the mother of a slave child. So if the father was a slave, if the mother was white, the child was born free, because slavery passed through the woman, and it passed through the black woman. So the black woman was really the carrier through the generations of slavery, year after year, decade after decade. So women suffered more, one might say, because the women were raped, they were plundered, their children were taken from them and sold on the market, like dogs and cats. They were sold left, right, and center. So the woman had her child taken for her, put on the market, it was sold to another country or wherever. So the woman probably suffered more personal grief through the fact that she was raped, she was plundered, her children were sold. So she was probably at the center of the horror that was slavery. So today I would say that black women have a special relationship to this reparations movement. And much as they were at the center of slavery, they should also be at the center of the reparations movement.
When will demand be made to Britain, and what makes Clarence Davis so special? When will the demand be made to Britain, and what makes Clarence Davis so special?
The heads of governments have determined at their meeting in St. Vincent 3 weeks ago that the Caricom subcommittee will meet to discuss the path. I am, as the chairman of the Caricom Reparations Commission, I am to meet with the Prime Minister of Barbados, the President of Haiti, the President of Guyana. They represent the subcommittee. We are to meet with the subcommittee, and the subcommittee will recommend to the heads of governments when, if and when, the letters will be sent to the governments of Europe calling for that summit. I am hoping that in this summer, in the next 2 to 3 months, I am hoping that the heads of governments will take that step and send those letters through the normal diplomatic channels to the governments of Europe calling for that conference and that summit. At that summit, we will discuss all of these matters, or in fact not we, the governments will discuss all of these matters. Yes. Well, I spent a fair amount of time speaking about what separated chattel slavery from other forms of slavery. And let me explain why chattel slavery is the most extreme form of slavery. Let us assume that on a scale of 1 to 10, you have something called oppression. Okay? On a scale of 1 to 10, you have oppression. So let's say that you have a child and the parents have control over their children. The parents can tell the child what to eat, when to sleep, when to wake up, when to go to school. The parents have power and control. So that is one kind of control which we know in society. Parents have authority in law over their children. Then you have situations in some cultures where you have marriage, where in some cultures, on marriage, the man has total control over that woman called the wife. Then you have contracts, where you sign a contract to serve a person for X number of years, and if you don't serve that person, they could put you in court and demand compensation. That's control. So you have all of those systems of control. You have indentured servitude. But at the extreme of that, at the other extreme, you have something called chattel slavery, where the person is classified as non-human, they are property, they are chattel, you have complete control.